Snow dusted the sidewalks of Chicago's South Loop, twinkling under streetlights as two boys raced home from school, their breaths puffing in the winter air. Eli and Liam Parker, identical twins, were born 3 minutes apart in 1993, their wails filling a hospital room like a duet. With matching curls and freckled cheeks, they were mirrors of each other, down to the dimples that flashed when they laughed. In their brownstone on Prairie Avenue, they were a forced two kids who moved as one, their voices blending in a constant hum of plans and pranks. They wore the same striped shirts, shared a bunk bed under a ceiling dotted with glow-in-the-dark stars, and spent hours plotting adventures. At 9, they built a volcano for the school science fair, vinegar and baking soda bubbling over to win a shiny blue ribbon. Neighbors knew them as the Parker Boys, a single name for a pair who seemed to share a heartbeat. But beneath the surface, they weren't the same. Liam lived for the soccer pitch, his cleats kicking up dirt as he darted past defenders, his grin bold under the stadium lights. Eli found his world elsewhere, in the school library's quiet corners, where he'd trace lines in sketchbooks or lose himself in novels about far-off places. By 6th grade, Eli felt a shift. Their parents, stretched thin by work, lit up for Liam's game-winning goals. Their mom, a nurse who came home with weary eyes, hung Liam's medals on the fridge. Their dad, hands rough from fixing cars, clapped Liam's shoulder but told Eli to stop daydreaming when he showed them a poem. At dinner, the table buzzed with talk of tryouts and scores, while Eli's stories about art class sank into silence. He saw it in their glances, a wish he'd trade his pencils for a jersey, be the son who fit their mold. Eli didn't fit, and it stung. He loved colors, words, the way a brush could say what he couldn't. He felt different, though he didn't yet know why. But Liam noticed, and Liam cared. In 7th grade, when a kid at school taunted Eli for carrying a sketchpad, snarling, "Sissy," Liam was there in a flash. He pushed the boy back, voice low and fierce. "He's my brother," he said, standing tall. Eli watched, heart pounding, safe behind Liam's strength. That moment burned bright in his memory, a promise that Liam would always shield him. They were a team, two halves stitched together no matter how the world tried to pull them apart. Eli held tight to that bond, believing it could weather anything. He didn't know that years later, in a city far from Chicago, the twin who shared his face would let him face the world alone. Will Eli and Liam's bond hold, or will it fray under pressure? Subscribe to our channel for stories that spark hope and break barriers. Don't miss what's next. Eli stepped onto the platform at Embarcadero Station, the hum of San Francisco's morning commute swirling around him as he adjusted his scarf against the bay's chilly breeze. At 30, he carried the same face as his twin, Liam, but his eyes held a cautious hope that hadn't been there in Chicago. Liam had settled in the city years earlier, carving a path as head of HR at a tech startup that promised to change the world. When he called Eli last spring, his voice crackled with excitement. "We're hiring designers," he said. "This place is perfect for you." Eli, stuck in a dead-end gig in Portland, packed his bags and moved, dreaming of a fresh start beside his brother. He thought working together would bring back the days when they were a team, unstoppable. He didn't know the office would become a mirror, reflecting a truth about Liam he wasn't ready to see. The company's headquarters sparkled in the financial district, a tower of glass and steel with ping-pong tables and kombucha on tap. Eli's desk sat by a window, the Bay Bridge a gray arc in the distance, and he threw himself into design with a hunger to prove his worth. He loved crafting interfaces that felt alive, his screens popping with bold gradients and smooth transitions. He dressed to match his work, a teal blazer one day, a patterned shirt the next, a single gold stud glinting in his ear. At first, coworkers smiled, one even calling his style brave. Eli grinned, thinking he'd found a place to belong. But the smiles didn't last. By his 2nd month, the air shifted. He caught sidelong glances in the cafeteria, heard muffled laughs when he passed huddles of engineers. On Slack, a channel he wasn't invited to lit up with a gif of a peacock strutting, captioned Eli's morning look. His jaw tightened, but he kept working, tweaking app layouts until midnight, hoping talent would drown out the noise. It didn't. In design reviews, his ideas were brushed aside. A manager, Sarah, scrolled past his prototype saying, "Too out there," her lips twitching like she'd told a joke. The team nodded and Eli's hands curled under the table. He wasn't asked to the next planning session, his calendar blank while others brainstormed without him. The slights piled up. At a team lunch, a coder named Josh leaned over smirking. "You're the artsy one, right? Bet you love Pride floats." Eli forced a laugh, his fork still, feeling eyes on him. Another day, he overheard two PMs in the break room, one muttering, "Diversity picks get all the buzz, but do they deliver?" Eli's throat burned. He'd come out at 21, proud to be gay, but here, that pride felt like a weight. He tried blending in, swapping his bright jackets for gray hoodies, keeping his head down. But the digs kept coming. A Slack thread he found late one night read, "Eli's aesthetic is giving unicorn vomit," with laughing emojis from names he recognized. He couldn't stay quiet. He typed up a complaint detailing the peacock gif, Josh's comment, Sarah's dismissals. He sent it to HR, to Liam's team, his fingers hovering over the keyboard before hitting submit. Liam would fix this, he thought. Liam, who'd gotten him the job, who'd once knocked a bully flat for mocking him. A week passed, then two. No reply. Eli tried again, documenting how a coworker had called his portfolio over the top in a public demo, the room snickering as he stood frozen. He clicked send, heart pounding, and waited. Nothing. He glanced at Liam's office across the floor, its glass walls framing his twin as he shook hands with VPs, his tie straight, his laugh loud. Why wasn't he doing anything? One Friday, Eli stayed after hours, the office dark except for his monitor's glow. He opened Slack, scrolling through a new thread. Drinks tonight, keep it chill, no glitter. His breath caught. He pictured Liam at 13, fists ready, protecting him. Now Liam ran HR, held the power to change things, but chose silence. Eli walked to the window, San Francisco's skyline sharp against the dusk, the bay's waves glinting like broken glass. He'd moved here for a brother he thought he knew. But the man in that glass office felt like a stranger, leaving Eli to fight a war he was losing, one quiet cut at a time. Eli lingered in the San Francisco office long after the last meeting, his desk a small island under the glow of a single lamp, the city's skyline twinkling through the window. At 30, he felt older, worn down by months of slights that piled up like bricks around him. The tech startup, with its promises of innovation, had become a gauntlet of whispers and smirks, each one aimed at him for being openly gay, for daring to wear a bright scarf or speak with a lilt. He'd sent 2 complaints to HR, typing out every jab, from the Slack meme mocking his style to the manager who'd scoffed at his designs. He'd waited for Liam, his twin and head of HR, to act, to be the brother who'd once stood up for him in Chicago alleys. But weeks passed, and the inbox stayed empty. Liam's silence louder than any taunt. Eli couldn't take it anymore. He needed to face his brother, to see if the boy who'd fought for him still existed. He scheduled a meeting, fingers trembling as he clicked send, hope and fear twisting inside him like a knot. The next day, Eli walked to Liam's office, his sneakers soft on the polished floor, passing open desks where coders typed and laughed, oblivious to his pulse racing. Liam's door was glass, framing a space that screamed success. A mahogany desk, a fern in the corner, a panoramic view of the Golden Gate Bridge slicing through the fog. Liam sat typing, his face a mirror of Eli's but sharper, hardened by years of climbing. Eli knocked, and Liam glanced up, his smile quick but thin. "Hey, come in," he said, waving to a leather chair. Eli sat, a notebook in his lap, pages filled with notes he'd written at midnight. The unicorn joke in a team chat, the coworker who'd muttered "too colorful" when he pitched an app layout, the lunch where he'd eaten alone. He looked at Liam, searching for the twin who'd shared his secrets, and spoke, voice low but firm. "I'm drowning here, Liam. People are coming at me, making comments about how I dress, who I am. I reported it to you. Nothing's changed. I need you to do something." Liam's eyes flicked to his screen, then back, his fingers drumming a slow beat on the desk. He leaned back, suit jacket creasing. Inside, a sound Eli knew too well from their dad when patience ran thin. "Eli, you get how it is," Liam said, voice clipped, professional. "If I jump in for you, it looks like I'm picking sides. I'd be done as HR. People talk, they tease. It's not personal. You need to push through, be stronger. The words hit Eli like cold water, stealing his breath. He saw Liam at 14, fists balled, yelling at a kid who'd called Eli a name, his voice a shield. Now, that voice was a wall, built to protect Liam's title, not his brother. It's personal to me. See, Eli said in throat tight. They're targeting me because I'm gay. You're supposed to handle that. Liam's jaw tensed, his gaze hard. Don't blow it up, he said. Deal with it quietly, like everyone else. Eli stood, notebook falling to the chair, his legs unsteady as he walked out, the glass door clicking shut behind him. He felt hollow, like Liam had taken a piece of him and locked it away. The office grew crueler after that. A designer, Rachel, rolled her eyes when Eli suggested a font change, muttering, "Stick to rainbows." The room laughed and Eli's hands froze on his keyboard, his screen blurring. He stopped wearing his patterned shirts, trading them for plain tees that felt like someone else's skin. He stopped raising his hand in meetings, his ideas left unspoken, his voice a whisper, even to himself. At lunch, he sat alone, scrolling his phone while others planned karaoke nights he'd never join. Once he passed Liam in the hallway, their eyes meeting for a second, but Liam turned away, his stride brisk, as if Eli was a stranger passing through. Back in his Mission District apartment, Eli lay awake, the city's hum seeping through cracked windows, fog curling against the glass like a ghost. He thought of Chicago, of summers when Liam pulled him into games, his laugh a promise they'd always be close. He thought of their bunk bed, their whispered plans, the way Liam's hand felt steady on his shoulder. That brother was gone, replaced by a man who saw Eli's pain and chose to look past it. Eli stared at his sketches, once alive with color, now gray and half-finished, and wondered if he'd lost himself too. He didn't know how to keep going, didn't know what it would take to break through the wall Liam had built, or if he'd have to face the world without the twin who'd once been his home. Eli sat in the back row of the San Francisco office's largest conference room, his chair hard against his spine as the projector hummed to life. The startup's weekly all-hands meeting buzzed with chatter, but Eli felt apart, a stranger in a crowd of polished laptops and branded water bottles. Months of slights had worn him down, the Slack taunts and meeting snub piling up until he barely recognized himself. He'd stopped wearing his vibrant jackets, stopped speaking, stopped hoping Liam, his twin and HR head, would stand up for him. After their talk weeks ago, when Liam told him to toughen up, Eli had faded, a ghost in his own workplace. But today, something was different. Whispers rippled through the room, eyes darting to phones, and Eli's stomach churned. He didn't know a video was about to crack his world open, exposing truths he'd buried and truths Liam couldn't ignore. It started with a ping on Slack, a link spreading faster than gossip. Someone had leaked footage from last month's company party, a glitzy affair at a waterfront venue Eli hadn't been invited to. The clip, grainy but clear, showed Greg, a senior manager with a slick grin, standing on a stage with a microphone. "Here's to our design team," he said, pausing for laughs, especially Eli, keeping it extra sparkly. He mimicked a sachet, tossing imaginary glitter as coworkers roared, their claps loud. Then came the kicker, a word Eli hadn't heard since high school, sharp and ugly, aimed at him. The video cut off, but its damage was done. By noon, it had hit every internal channel, then email threads, then inboxes beyond the company. Eli watched it on his phone, alone at his desk, his hands cold, heart racing. He felt bare, like the whole office could see his wounds. The backlash was instant. Employees flooded Slack with outrage, some tagging Liam's team, others demanding Greg's badge. Clients emailed executives, threatening to pull contracts. Eli scrolled through messages, stunned to see names he didn't know typing, "This isn't okay." But the loudest voice was silent. Liam, the man who ran HR and who shared Eli's face, said nothing. By midweek, the pressure forced action. Liam called an emergency meeting, the same room now packed, air thick with tension. Eli sat again in the back, arms crossed, his pulse loud in his ears. Liam took the podium, his suit crisp, voice steady. "We're committed to inclusion," he said, reading from notes. "Discrimination has no place here. We're investigating and will act. Applause followed, but Eli waited, breath held, for his name, for a nod to the brother hurt most. It never came. Liam stepped down, shaking hands with managers, his eyes never meeting Eli's. Something snapped. Eli felt it, deep and final, like a string cut loose. He stood, chair scraping, and walked out, the room's hum fading behind him. Faces turned, but he didn't stop, his steps loud on the tile, carrying him past Liam's glass office, past his own desk with its untouched sketches. He reached the elevator, doors closing on the world that had tried to erase him. The next morning, Eli drafted his resignation, fingers steady as he typed. He left his badge by his monitor, a small act of defiance, and went home. That night, in his Mission District apartment, with fog blanketing the city, he opened LinkedIn. He wrote without pause, words pouring out like paint he'd held back too long. "My twin runs HR. I watch them break me," he titled it. He listed everything, the party video, the sparkly jab, the months of jokes, the complaints HR ignored, the brother who chose silence over family. He hit post at dawn, his chest tight but light, like he'd taken his first breath in years. The post exploded. By evening, it had thousands of views, shares climbing as strangers left comments. "I've been there. You're not alone." Designers he'd never met messaged him, thanking him for speaking. News sites picked it up, quoting his words, and the company's name trended for all the wrong reasons. Eli read each response, tears blurring his screen, feeling seen for the first time since Chicago. He'd lost his job, his place in Liam's world, but he'd found his voice, raw and unshaken. He thought of their bunk bed, Liam's whispers in the dark, promising they'd always be a team. That promise was broken, but Eli wasn't. He'd stepped into the light, ready to fight for himself, no matter who stood with him or against him. Eli stood by the window of his Mission District apartment, San Francisco's rolling thick across the city, a gray veil that matched the weight in his chest. Weeks had passed since his LinkedIn post, "My twin runs HR, I watch them break me," set the internet ablaze. The words he'd poured out, raw and unfiltered, had ricocheted far beyond the tech startup's glass walls. Thousands shared it, strangers messaged him, and news outlets dissected the company's toxic culture. The fallout was swift. Audits hit the firm, a major client pulled out, and social media churned with hashtags demanding change. Eli, now 30, felt the world shift under him. He'd quit his job, walked away from Liam's silence, and found a voice he didn't know he had. But the victory was bittersweet, heavy with the loss of the brother who'd once been his anchor. Liam's text came late one night, a single line. "Can we talk? I'll listen this time." Eli stared at it, his thumb hovering, memories of Chicago flickering Liam's laugh, their bunk bed, the way he'd fought for Eli as kids. He agreed to meet, choosing a quiet cafe in Noe Valley, its wooden tables worn smooth by time. Liam arrived first, his suit traded for a sweater, his face, so like Eli's, lined with something new, maybe regret. They sat across from each other, coffee steaming, the air thick with years unspoken. Eli spoke first, voice steady but sharp. "You let them hurt me, Liam. The jokes, the video, all of it. I told you, and you said to deal with it. You chose them over me." He paused, eyes locked on his twin. "You were my team. What happened to that?" Liam looked down, fingers tracing the cup's rim, his breath uneven. "I was scared," he said, voice low. "If I backed you, I'd look biased, lose my role. I thought I was keeping things fair, protecting us both." He met Eli's gaze, eyes pleading. "I didn't see how bad it was." Eli's chest tightened, anger mixing with grief. He saw Liam, at 15, standing tall against a bully, fearless for his brother. "You saw," Eli said, slow and clear. "You just didn't care enough. When we were kids, you fought for me without a second thought. Now you only fight when it won't cost you." Liam flinched, mouth opening, but no words came. They sat in silence, the cafe's hum filling the space where their bond used to be. When they parted, no hug, no promises, just a nod. Eli felt the door close on the twin he'd known. He didn't look back. Eli threw himself into a new dream, one born from the ashes of his post-fire. He founded a startup, a platform for LGBTQ+ designers to showcase work without fear, to create boldly. He rented a small office in the Castro, its walls soon covered with sketches and notes, a space alive with color and courage. He hired artists who'd felt unseen, their portfolios bursting with ideas no corporate boardroom could dim. Eli named the company Chromatic, its slogan a quiet vow: "You don't need to match to stand together." Clients came, small at first, then bigger, drawn to a mission that felt human. Eli worked late, not out of duty, but joy, his nights filled with mock-ups and laughter from a team that saw him, not his twin shadow. San Francisco's sunsets painted the sky as Eli walked home, the city's hills a reminder of how far he'd climbed. Liam never called again, his life a distant echo Eli no longer chased. The pain lingered, a scar from a brother lost, but Eli wasn't broken. He'd built a family, not of blood, but of heart's designers, dreamers, people who stood with him because they chose to. He thought of their childhood, Liam's hand pulling him up, and smiled, not for what was gone, but for what he'd made. Eli was his own team now, his colors brighter than ever, a light no one could fade. What makes you stand tall? Tell us below and subscribe to join our stories of courage and truth.